All right. Now we're on issue 11 of Kamandi, Last Boy on Earth by Jack Kirby, inked by Mike Royers. Jake, how you feeling? You got your copy there with
Uh,
you?
yeah, I got a VG minus
Original.
and somebody VG minus 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 with a rip on the cover and just barely holding together. And somebody added up some numbers on on the front with a ballpoint pen. They added up 240, 24, and 4.
What did they get?
They got 276, which is wrong. Oh no, yeah, it's 271. What the hell?
That's awesome.
Oh, maybe that's an 8. I don't know if that's a 4 or an 8.
Uh,
Okay, I think that's an 8. So a
they made it.
bad handwriting. But if you just draw on your kid's comic, you know that this was just like lying around. Um, so yeah,
Disposable.
we are in 1973. We're back into the post-apocalyptic world of Kamandi, the last boy on Earth. Um, any comments on the cover?
I like the what is a Kirky?
Crikey,
Ah, oh,
that's an
crikey.
old
Oh, excuse me. Yeah. Sorry.
yeah.
Dyslexia.
Uh,
Dyslexia again.
that is an old
Yeah, pirate.
pirate
Oh,
expression.
crikey. Yeah, you're right. No, I remember.
Yeah, so they're discovering Kamandi like in the ocean. He may not be worth saving. So again, we're just alluding to this theme that they keep hitting on that humans are worthless and animals are like humans. Um,
Half drowned animal.
right. We don't see too many word balloons on the covers of Kamandi comics. Well, let's see. Number 1 and 2 don't. Number 4 says a human he must not escape. The yellow-haired animal. No word balloons on 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10. So word balloons are few and far between. There isn't any on 12, 13. So yeah, so sometimes, maybe only like, 10% of the time they put a word balloon on a cover. Interesting just to note that they give you a little bit of dialogue and tells us this guy's got like a pirate vernacular.
Yeah.
Huh.
You ready?
So yeah, so here we go. The last issue they were just kind of escaping the tracking site which was exploding, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's another one of these last minute explosions, but they don't, they only give it like a half a page or a quarter of a page, right?
Yeah.
When
Well, it launches into outer space, but I mean it's full of all the Batmen and our buddy the Misfit and the dreaded killer germ Mordecacus.
oh
So
right,
it's
yeah,
definitely launched into space. So there there maybe we're going to see this fall back down to Earth and have a revisit, but
right. And if
our
you if
heroes
you
are safe.
right, so there was a giant tremor rocks the globe as they get into this cool little mini jet, hover jet they call it, and then the big tracking site globe goes out into space, and we don't
Hmm.
even see what happens to it after that point.
Yeah.
As we rejoin our troop here, they're just like kind of like flying across the sea. It looks like, is that the sea? Yeah, and something's happened to the hovercraft. The engine's on fire.
Oh boy.
So this is a hook, right? It's like, oh
Yeah.
boy, these guys are in trouble right from page one.
Well, it says that at the
Um,
top. Reader, beware. Or be
yeah, the
warned.
theme
Excuse me. Be warned.
the theme of this comic is a new and perhaps disturbing experience. If you wonder what changes may be in store for the world we live in, the worst has happened. A natural disaster has struck the earth. Man is the low animal on the totem pole. For those who can still reason are in desperate search of a home in this new world. So when we turn the page, we're going to see a beautiful double page splash. And here we're also getting some maps too.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Old Florida.
And yeah, my comic, because I have just a floppy comic, I can open my pages even wider. I don't have to worry about
Yeah.
splitting the spine of the book.
Yeah.
But but yeah, they're flying out of the sky and they're hurtling down. And we see this giant pirate ship, but except it seems like it has a big sponsor, Sacker's Department Store.
Yeah. I guess they used all the parts of a building and signs and stuff to get this ferry boat back up and running.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Um, right, because we see on the word balloons that they have this kind of like they use one pen. Maybe it was a rapidograph pen. I doubt if it was pen and ink, like dip pen or a brush. Not sure, but then they have like a thicker pen that they use for the bold lines, the bold
Yeah.
words, right? Like do as Ben tells you, Kamandi. It's your only choice. Um, right. So I wonder, did they have, because I had a set of rapidographs and I had my very, very thick and my medium.
Yeah.
Um, but look where it says department store, right? Now
Yeah.
I'm thinking that's also not a brush or a dip pen. I think that that is a very, very thick rapidograph pen type thing that they use. What do you
Uh,
think?
no. I well, they have calligraphers pens that come in all sizes of nibs.
Right, and
So
we
they're
know that
kind of pre-ballpoint.
yeah, we know that Kirby has the speedball set because look at all those squiggly lines. They have
Yeah,
thin
but
and
he's not
thick.
lettering. Royer's lettering.
Well, he probably gave him over, said, "Look, I use a lot, this is the style. We use the speedball pen. This will make it quicker for
Hmm.
you." Um,
It's a
and
really
I
good question.
Yeah, because the calligraphy set also has that round ball nib, and so
Hmm.
you would have had to dip that in. I mean, we don't know if there was any cleanup on the black and white artwork. But that thickness of writing, it had to get done some way, and I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm guessing that they probably used the round speedball nib and they dipped it in ink, right?
But we're also talking about two, how big were the pages? I mean, I think Kirby was working two sizes up. So that's some that's some big,
Yeah, they
pen mark just to make D instead of like painting in DE, with a brush, and maybe even editing it with some whiteout just to keep it tighter.
Well,
That's a
here's an even more basic question for you then. What about Kirby dots in general? Because, if you're doing that with a brush, you have to round off every one of those shapes.
ooh,
Y-
yeah,
So
yeah,
and
yeah.
and I think it's a giveaway when you see the squiggles. You can see that on the metal pipes that when it's a lateral, motion, it's thick, and then when it's a vertical motion, it's thin. Those are speedball, those are calligraphy nibs, and Kirby used them, throughout his fast period. Silver Surfer, anything shiny, and then I think he also used the round nibs for his Kirby dots. I think the guy had like the whole set there, and he was just dipping them all into the ink, or. And then the question is, were his inkers doing the same? Was he penciling that in mind, for the inker to continue down the production? So, um,
Seems like a lot of time on his part, and if you're doing 3 books a month, I just
I mean, you could
think there's a
tell,
lot of
you could
back
tell.
and forth going on as this process is being done, and he's got 30 years under his belt. So I'm sure there's heavy-handed instruction right from the get-go, and then as each issue is coming out, hey man, are you holding the pen this way or that way? Try it this way or that way, and then it's telegraphed out there. So yeah, it's hey, if anybody knows the answer to these questions or have a link to a video that gives more in
Oh
depth.
my God! So watching him work in
Whew.
action would be valuable. So yeah,
Ah, yeah.
we're
Yeah.
left to guess, but here is a double page spread. We have lots of action. I love the layer in the back because it shows the kind of turbulence of the sea, and
Hmm.
they're landing on this very unusual craft that has like the paddle wheel part, and then it's also got some futuristic machinery part to it. You know, there's some controls on it. We don't know what the hell is going on. There's Kirby dots all over the place. Anytime he does water, anytime he does explosions, they're multifunctional. We could all see the trail, and we can see that Kamandi and his pals came over the horizon line, and they just found this vessel. So you know, maybe it's serendipitous or not. You know, I think maybe they're about to get fished out of the ocean. We're gonna find out. But also, we have a little map there on the bottom, so you know, there's a little bit of thought put into it, and we can see where they are. They're off the coast of Florida in the Atlantic Ocean, and tracking site was there, not very far into Mexico, right?
Well, there's been maps that showed this is, um, I think there's actually South America.
Well, Mexico is North
Yeah, see
America,
here, see here. He had this. This map is showing that this is now all land,
right?
and tracking site is here. So this is and this map we think comes from either
Maybe.
issue one, or you have it in issue 32. You had made a mention because they reprint issue one in 32, which is a giant size.
Yeah, I think they advertised some bonus maps on a giant size issue that we're gonna, you know, that's a later, much later in the series. But
Yeah, this is definitely
anyway,
an inconsistency, but hey, this is
anywho,
comic books.
right? It wouldn't be the first time. So
No,
yeah,
or the last.
Command and Company crashed down.
Let's see where they land. Oh,
Uh, the
crash
the
with two
flaming
S's.
craft strikes the water and disintegrates. We don't know who attacked their craft all of a sudden.
Yeah,
Commandy hurtles under the water. He's limp but naturally buoyant and begins to rise to the surface. And here we see the little cover scene. We found nothing worth salvaging. There's an animal in the water. He may still be alive. They hook him out by his shorts. It wasn't worth sending a boat just to reel in this thing, so they reiterate over and over that animals aren't even, you know, considered worth anything. And then he says, when Captain Bligh gives an order, we'd better carry it out. Now lend a hand. So we know
yeah.
who's in charge. Um, yeah, so we've only had 4 pages thus far, and we're getting into chapter 2.
The
Um,
devil.
right now, on my issue, it's a left-handed, so you're on another side from me,
I'm all
and
right.
yeah, and I'm also seeing the requisite printer mess ups and out of registration. Like I don't know if you can zoom up, but the captain's eyes are like dark green. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yep.
good, great.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, Kamandi is coming to, and we don't know what happened to the rest of the guys. He's you know, maybe they sank because they're metal parts. He's Kamandi's too weak to act. He realizes his destiny has taken a turn, and he's in this like hold underneath the ship, you know. And we see now here Captain Bligh. He's got his cool little outfit. It's kind of like a throwback, but he's also got a rod there, and you know, he's got his second mate here, and uh, hang me from a yardarm if I'm lying to you, Captain. Listen, and Commander is the B Ben Steve Renzi. We're going to hit by thunder. The animal can speak. It's uncanny, Captain. That's what makes it. That's what it is. It makes a man feel weird in his sockets, if you know what I mean. Where am I? Who are you? And he recognizes them. They're leopards. They're. Can you believe it now? Sink me
Yeah.
if he isn't a fountain of words. He's a prize seaman, a prize catch. You big windbag, where are my friends? Did you pick them up too? Here now, soften that tongue of yours, one addressing the captain. Slap. And then he also slaps his his assistant. Idiot! I'll stand for no mistreat. Oh no, so this is the captain, kind of reprimanding the
First
first,
mate.
yeah, the first mate for slapping Kamandi around. I'll stand for no mistreatment of this animal. He feels like maybe he's a great sideshow piece.
Yeah.
There's no telling how much he's worth in cold cash. And he says the lash waits for any swab who harms this animal. Aye, aye, sir. At that moment, a strange, unnerving sound rises from somewhere on the ship. What's that? It's him again, sir, the devil. And what is the sound? It's like
Kick, kick. There's a lot of kick in there.
do you notice how
Click, click, kick, kick.
right? It's not, and that reminds me of like the sounds that dolphins make, right? Um,
Oh yeah.
so do you notice that that sound effect is kind of like contained in the box, right?
I do. Yep.
So that means like maybe it sounds like it's a little bit like subdued, like it's coming from like an internal space, right? Does that
Yeah.
translate?
Like
Yeah.
echoing. It's echoing within their space.
Right, but they say it's from somewhere on the ship, right? So
Yep.
you're just imagining that you know we're painting the movie in your mind. What kind of ship is this? What kind of cargo are you carrying? And he says, "Heh heh, like yourself, animal. I'd say it's mostly live cargo. Talking with an animal is enough to shake a man. Let's go check on the devil." And Commandy's saying, "I gotta free myself. I've got to." Commandy struggles furiously with his bonds when his captors leave. It's only one steel cub. If I can pull my hand through, if I can only. Stoically enduring the pressure, Commandy slowly manages to squeeze his hand out of its metal prison. And with a final pull, Commandy finds himself free. And he's kind of like wringing out the pain. He's looking around. These seagoing leopards seem to be traders. This cabin is filled with pre-disaster artifacts. He's looking around and he's recognizing things from his microfilm and telephones, cameras, tape recorders, household merchandise. If Jack Kirby only knew that telephones and those cameras would be completely outmoded by 15 years later. Um, and now these leopards roam the world in ships while men live in wild herds, hunted and enslaved. Things will change someday. I hope to see men take their rightful place as leaders of the world. But right now, I must look to my own survival. Interesting there that Kamandi, still feels that humans, should be on top, and maybe there isn't like a shared hierarchy, in this future realm. But next page, story page 9. Kamandi cautiously steals past a room filled with off-duty leopard sea rovers, and they're playing a projector, and looks like they're playing some cartoons.
It's pretty cool. It's
It's
pretty
more.
cool.
They say this is cool. It's more fun than watching the devil. Capturing him almost cost us and the crew's life and the ship. Only Captain Bligh would risk our necks in that spooky North Country. We should put into port pretty soon. I'm not sailing with Captain Bligh again. Not after that trip into Devil Country. So they're really doing the job here of foreshadowing this devil,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
And I think I know what the devil's going to be, but that's only because I, read all these comics when I was a kid. Um, but if you peek ahead, at the covers, I'll have to take my chances on this open hatchway going down. Um, Commander is trying to elude detection, so he's being very careful. It sure is noisy down in this hold. I wonder what's going on. He looks and he sees machine guns. These leopards trade in more than household items. Keep that trash quiet, I said. Quiet. Commander sees what Captain Bligh meant by live cargo. It's human slaves. Here we see men and women in captivity and shackles. You've got a devil in the next room. Get us out. Oh, wow. So it's not just humans, Kurt. Look.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
can you just center your that upper left page you have with the cargo hold? Yeah. So I'm seeing a lot of registration errors on mine. The blue, it seems like the dark blue of the collars
The
and the pins,
chains.
yeah, was really out of whack. So you're getting the blue all over the bodies, and it seems like it wasn't even cut right Like the frisket that was cut was like all over the place, just blobs of blue everywhere.
That's a
Really bad.
lot of detail, man. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, if you saw
That is a
mine,
lot of work. Oh, I will. I'll
if
see
you
it.
if you saw mine, you would see like because the blue is just spilling over into the flesh color, into the orange of the lion, and it's just so
So it's like a
blobby.
green. It's like
Yeah,
a blobby greenish.
turns green, turns like dark mud. Yeah, so
Right.
this was the printing in those days. I'm pretty sure they cleaned it up for your omnibus edition, but
Oh yeah, it's all computer.
fear of the devil seems to have permeated the entire ship, and then Kamandi finds him. Phew, what an odor. Simmer down, devil. You may learn to like this powder. It's hard to tell what that thing is, but it's evident that leopards keep it under control with that smelly powder on the pole. The powder must be a repellent of some kind. And is that a leopard creeping up behind Kamandi?
Hmm.
Um, what half angry nature wrought in her revolt against man? So here we see again that really heavy print that I'm speculating is done with the speedball rounded dip pen nib. The great disaster brought more than the ascendancy of the beast. Kamandi has only seen a small portion of Earth AD after disaster. He realizes that he's in store for further surprises. The next one is almost upon him. It's called Sacker's Department Store. And here we can see that the production crew used a press-on letter. I still have these sheets. They used a font of all capital script, um, and you kind of like use like a what do they call it? A
Like a
burnisher.
rub. Yeah, burnisher. Yes,
Yeah,
yes. Yep.
and so they burnished these letters right onto the artwork. You don't see this too often
Nah.
in the comics, but they did it here. And they've tracked down the runaway animal. They kick him to go closer to the devil, and they're pushing him down. We're not sure what the devil is yet. I think I'm wrong because I was guessing that the devil was like a giant killer whale or something, but apparently it's got legs. Powder strong, can't breathe. You haven't smelled nothing yet. Here's a good whiff of it, beastie. It'll take all the fight out of ya. And here again, we're seeing he's reeling and he's just like repulsed by the powder. Crawling it away won't help you. You'll be nice and peaceful now. Commandy's like on the verge of being passed out. He just looks like he's in bad shape. He's calm as a kitten. Put him in chains with the other trash. The Sackers Company paid for this expedition. They'll decide the fate of this cargo, and that includes the devil. We'll soon be docking, so prepare to disembark. So, yeah, so now we know that there's a big corporate sponsor here to this ship, right? It's this like kind of like a mercenary ship, or what do they call it? Privateers, remember?
Yep. Privateers. Yep.
Yep. Um, So turn the page. So I have some ads here, and I also have behind the scenes at DC Comic World ads.
Ooh.
A page of printing. There's some Justice League and Legion of Superheroes. Um, back to the story. They put in here at the port. What was once the resort coast of Florida still hums with activity. And here we see the Sackers Company. We sell anything to anybody. Captain Bly's back. Get ready to process the cargo. We see that the slaves are being led out in irons. The sackers have customers waiting. Commandy's put in with the humans. I'm to be sold just like merchandise. I wonder if I'll fetch as much money as that old relic of a motorcycle. That looks like a cool bike. This can't happen to me. I've somehow got to escape. I've got to get rid of this steel collar. But freeing my head is going to be tougher than squeezing my hand out. So he's having a tough time. Clumsy animal, get going. You're holding up the line. Now, I've got to do it. He finds his opportunity to grab the holster, the gun out of the holster. He puts it to the animal's back. Shame on you letting an animal take your pistol. Do as I tell you. Unlock this neck piece I'm wearing. That's it. You're doing fine. Just get it open now. Thanks for nothing, you fink. And he gives him a nice swat with the gun. So, Commandy's,
Bam.
yep, he's worked himself free. He's getting shot at. After him. Don't shoot to kill. He's valuable. I guess they just want to try to wing him. Pow, pow, bam. There he is. Look out. Sink us. The animal knows how to use a pistol. Oh, he just shoots. He shoots one of the leopards. You asked for a shootout, and you got one. Don't play with him. He's dangerous. You bet I am when my hide's on the line. And he kicks a box labeled grenades.
So
This
awesome.
time we shoot to kill. Wait, that box. Blam. Woof. So you see multiple explosions here. Those boxes, they're filled with live ammo. It just keeps going off, right? Spee, pow. Now the big stuff is going off. Sping, 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 pow, pow, pow. I love these last couple panels of Kamandi just kind of
Mm-hmm.
crawling away, right? And
Mm-hmm.
all this stuff like ricocheting all over. Kamandi goes down some stairs. If he says, if this is the bargain basement, they've got an eager customer. Kamandi is so eager to gain cover, he trips on the way down. Ow, I must remember to tell them to carpet these stairs. So the basement smells. He detects an acrid but familiar odor, and he says, "That smell, it's the repellent. They've got the devil down here." And sure enough, we turn the page, and chapter 4, we see they're all wearing the masks, and they're handling the devil. They're controlling him with these caustic, powder they have on the poles. They've got a little telecom system. Did you say one of the animals is loose? So that's what all the shooting's about up there. The devil hears it too. Put more powder on the poles. Keep him in line. I didn't realize they had an intercom system. They've been warned about me. All right, if we spot the animal, we'll call you. We're doing all we can to keep the devil in his place. Kamandi is thinking about finding the nearest exit, and then silently, a leopard steals up behind him. Just one good tap with this and I've got him. Uh-oh, I think I heard a footstep. Blast, I missed him. Crack. I can't afford to miss. He gets him in the back. Scrock, this should put you to sleep. And suddenly, what's going on out here? Someone's clobbered this bird. Look, the animal. So now Kamandi is spotted, and he's shooting back, and he says, yes, this animal doesn't intend to be taken. Yow! Pow, pow. They ran like rabbits, but they'll be back with a posse. I sure could use a friend right now, or a diversion. If I could give those leopards another quarry to chase, like the devil. And here the devil is making these
Making
noise.
that sound. Yeah,
Yes,
the clickety clack.
it's clig,
Click, click,
clig,
click, click.
clig, click, clack, clack, click, clack, clack, click, clack, clack. Whatever he
Yeah.
is, I don't know how he can stay alive in this awful stench.
Insect. I think it's gonna be like an
Oh
insect.
yeah, it might be our
Giant,
it might be our
giant.
giant grasshopper, right? I got to
Uh,
stake my life on him and free him from those cables. So Kamandi is shooting free the cables, and all of a sudden,
oh, we got a reveal. There it is.
ye gods, what is
Oh
this
boy.
thing? Kamandi
Oh
stares
my God.
frozen in his tracks as the devil tears away his restraining cloth. Ancient superstitious fear grips Kamandi. What kind of terror is he unleashed? Can there really be such things as devils? And Kamandi lays eyes on it and understands somewhere the effects of the great disaster have produced an incredible change, staggering beyond belief. Face to face with the devil, Kamandi can hardly get his words out. An insect, a giant insect. Click, 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 click. Don't run for the exit, reader. Stay for the next issue and the most unusual department store sales. Read The Devil and Mr. Sacker.
Wow.
So, yeah, this giant insect, it's not that big, compared to Kamandi. And a Sacker, is that a take on Saks Fifth Avenue, maybe?
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
Reminds me of the Sacklers, which is the pharmaceutical. Yeah, so in my issue here, we have 2 pages of uh, um, what are the mailbag notes, and it's called the Time Capsule. It's handled by Steve Sherman, who I guess was a junior editor. Um, and yeah, you have a couple of letters like, "Dear Jack, tell me it isn't so." What, you may ask, am I referring to? Commanding number 6, of course. I just can't believe that so soon after introducing her, you would let anything happen to Flower. It really
Yeah.
shook me up to see what happened to her. I'm sure I speak for the other fans when I say Short and to the point. Don't let flower die. Joe Meyer, Bruce, Wisconsin. Um, yeah, and multiple letters here saying matter of fact they're all about flower, flower, flower. Commanding number 6. What did you do to flower? As you can see, almost everyone was sad to see flower killed. Would have preferred to see her stay around, if not permanently. As I mentioned last month, Jack had the character in mind ever since he began the first issue, which would seem to indicate that Flower's role was created to be more than just a 2-issue plot device. If you followed Jack for any length of time, you're probably aware he likes to introduce as many characters as possible within the first dozen or so issues, and then go back and use these characters to broaden the picture. When last seen, Jack was mulling over the flower situation and promises that he is not yet through exploring the possibilities.
Yeah.
To finish up,
Zombie flower.
and to finish up, there were also a few letters criticizing the way Flower's anatomy was displayed, or the lack of. In answer to those who wondered, one, no, there was no fiddling with the art after Jack was through by the code or anyone else. That's the way Jack drew it. He drew it that way in the first place because that's the way some girls at the age of 15 look. If
Hmm.
Jack had wanted Raquel Welch, he would have drawn Raquel Welch. For further lessons on the female figure, refer to Mr. Miracle issues 4 to 15. When you're finished doing that, you might like to write to us here at the Time Capsule, P.O. Box 336, Newbury Park, California. Wow, so
So
they
so
answer
can't
some questions.
Kamandi is a teenager? Like
Yeah,
in that same kind, you think like 15, 16, not like 18, 19?
we don't know, but
He's a pretty jacked 15-year-old.
yeah, are they just stating that Flower was only 15?
That's so odd.
He says he drew it that way in the first place because that's the way some girls at the age of 15 look. Yeah, if that's what she's supposed to be, then that's how we learned it. You got to get these
All right.
letter bags. You got to get these letter pages.
Yeah.
I wonder if we missed anything in the last one. Um, so yeah, this was an interesting this was kind of like a setup issue.
Yes.
We
I
don't
was gonna
even know
say.
where we're going with the Sacker department store. We know that there's leopards, but apparently they keep slaves and they have all kinds of animals and humans. Um, we just came out of the story arc with the Misfit and the tracking site, so we're learning more and more about
The world.
the world that
Yep.
Commandy's world, right?
Right.
But yeah, we'll see. Um, next uh, next issue is going to be number 12, and you can see the cover there. That's the one with the giant insect. By the way,
Yep.
the insect is what they used in the end of the animated 18-minute feature
Oh wow.
that you could find on Netflix. So they kind of like picked and chose a couple of themes. And yeah, at the end they do introduce this, but Commander wasn't on a boat or anything, so they kind of amalgamate stuff. Um, yeah, and I don't know if this is going to be just a 2-issue arc or longer than that, if they're going to take time to develop, but we will find out as we
Yeah,
go.
it was a lot of, it's a lot of questions. There's really no answers to anything. There's once again we're we're being given a world brick by brick,
Right.
to be a little
Information is given out on a
um,
need-to-know basis. We don't know what happened to
yeah.
Ben Boxer or Stephen Renzi. Um,
Yep.
and are they okay surviving underwater? They were built differently than regular humans. Um, the leopards seem like they're just kind of like these go-betweens, right? For the big company, they're just privateers, right? Just like bounty hunters and stuff. Um, and yeah, this one had kind of a lot of like chase scenes, right? And it's just like Kamandi just kind of like bopping around like a pinball from one situation to the other,
Right. Right.
right?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting next week to get into 12, because I would assume as we've gotten this far that it'll have a lot of answers. I don't want to use the word conclusion. I want to use the word answer to some of these questions, and then maybe even on a broader scale about the position of human to animal morphic leadership and
Right.
so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So
So obviously we're big fans, huge super fans of Jack Kirby, and I've been going through this Kirby and Lee Stuff Said expanded second edition. I don't go very far at once, but in in the history of Marvel and superhero comics and DC, I got to this turning point in the story in spring of 1961, where we were discussing last time. They just got the green light. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby just got the green light to make Fantastic Four #1, and interesting stuff. In the first in Fantastic Four #2, 3, and 4, there were these pinup pages in the back. #2 had a pinup page of the Thing. #3 had a pinup page of the Human Torch, and #4 had Mr. Fantastic. And the author, John Morrow, is speculating that those were the artist pitch pages that
yeah,
Jack Kirby had created for those characters. Because when he drew the Thing, um, he drew it kind of like those Fin Fang Foom style monsters, right? And they did add some words to it that says, watch out for our great issue number Fantastic Four. But he was a big rocky brute, but he was already had changed a little bit from how he looked, from the first pinup, to the interiors of Fantastic Four. Same thing with Human Torch. He was kind of like revitalized as from a golden age property. They're making him now Johnny Storm, but they don't show the Fantastic Four's uniform. And so Morrow says that this is proof that those pages were done before Fantastic Four #1 came out, before the Fantastic Four was developed. Um, in the third one with Mr. Fantastic, by now you can see the uniform, the Fantastic Four uniform that they all wear, and so he may have been possibly they changed the details on the uniform. They re-inked it to have the #4 on it, but it's also possible that he was just a standalone character too. And so they're going back in time speculating, and they also reveal that Jack Kirby had some sketches for a character called Spider-Man that looked nothing like the Steve Ditko one. He had like a web gun, and he had like a more of a Captain
yeah,
America uniform.
yep,
So there's all these different claims about who created what. But I remember when I was a kid, I read Origins of Marvel Comics, and Stan Lee was stating, matter of factly, that he made up Spider-Man, and he got the idea from the pulp cereal called the Spider, Master of
yeah,
Men.
yeah.
Yeah, we don't know if that's 100% true. We know that's Stan's side, but I grew up
Well,
think
that's one point of origin, because the other part of it, I think his grander scheme was to tell a story that felt more real. I think he was exhausted. Stan expressed to his wife that he wanted to quit, and his wife just said, "Well, if you're going to quit, then why don't you just go ahead and do something that you want to do?" But she was probably coming home and complaining about. And this reality, a young teenage boy with real young teenage boy problems, lives with his aunt and uncle. He's a nerd, a bit
yeah,
of
that
an
that
outsider
all
to other,
that all has Stan's fingerprint on it. But
yeah,
right, but
yeah.
when you say, like, that Jack Kirby came to Marvel and he handed them a sketch and it said Spider-Man on it, that suggests at the very least that Kirby suggested the name of a character.
Yeah, but I think that was happening probably 35 times a day within that entire office. That's the game back then. The game was covering your property ass in making sure that you had the next big Superman, Batman character. Because at this point, Marvel had who? Captain
No,
America.
he was dormant.
Um,
Captain America was dormant in 61.
right,
They
right,
didn't
right.
have
Yeah.
it.
So they didn't even have their own. Spider-Man is their Batman and Superman
Yeah, but
flagship.
Spider-Man came out after Fantastic Four. Fantastic
Yeah.
Four was greenlighted. It was the beginning of the Marvel superhero age,
Yes.
and
Yes.
they explain how they got to that point. It was because DC was having some modest success with Justice League of America, and
Yeah.
they had a super group with the Flash, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, and the Martian Manhunter. And Kirby did have in 1959, so this is 2 years before, Kirby did come out with the Adventures of the Fly for Archie Comics, and that's Kirby claims to have had the insect idea in the air, and that he was, but again, if you submit this to a company, um, and they use it, and you're getting paid to work for the company, who knows what that means as far as billion-dollar lawsuits like later on, hundreds of millions of dollars at stake.
Yeah,
It's all very,
once
it's
again,
all very,
but it's all under work for hire. I mean, we've obviously have gotten out from underneath the shackles of signing a work for hire.
yeah, but
But it would be interesting to see what an NDA causes you because,
right.
the big money making in art is to sit there and do concepts for, the next big thing for a corporation like Marvel or
Yeah, but
DC or movie or,
we find out though in this history that they were making all of these royalty arrangements. It wasn't always work for hire. Like with
back in the
well,
60s, back in the
yeah, when you
60s.
were working for in the 50s, when you were working for Marvel, you were basically getting a page rate. But
Yeah.
Kirby and Simon and Kirby and his other collaborators had already had all of these different arrangements and contracts, and they had already been through lawsuits. It says right here that in 1960, Kirby lost a lawsuit with his co-creator on Sky Masters, which was
Yeah.
a newspaper strip that ran for
Yeah. Wally
3 years, right?
Yeah.
Bollywood inked it, exactly. So he got sued and he lost. So there were all these arrangements, but I think what they were trying to do, what Kirby was trying to do was get on a series. He had just had another kid. And by the way, this mentions that Susan Kirby was told by her dad that Sue Storm was named after her. He said that
Hmm.
he named. I was in my father's office. I used to go down there, and he told me, "I want you to see this. I named a female superhero after you. Her name is Sue." It was the Fantastic Four. There was three characters on the board. I asked who they are. He told me who each one was. She said it looks great. So she had, that was a deposition that she had to enter into a court case in 2010,
Hmm.
as they were settling all this up. So, things all worked out in the end. It was back and forth wrangling. It really depends who puts something in writing, who has a contemporaneous account that can be corroborated by other credible witnesses. And we don't know what the final settlement is, but, Jack Kirby's family was because Marvel is recognizing all this bounty now, and whenever there is a whenever the X-Men movie comes out, I'm sorry, Jack Kirby's family should get a piece of that. You know, I mean, unless it's if it doesn't have Cyclops, the Beast, Professor X, Angel, or Marvel Girl or Dark Phoenix or any of that, those are all his characters, and he
Yeah.
was co-creator at the very least. Um,
Yeah.
so the
I think it also,
the
though, just to add, I think it's one of the reasons that we're not seeing that many new properties coming to light because I think these larger corporations have felt the sting um, enough in the way of trying to negotiate contracts and renegotiate contracts with creators. without, let's just say, certain technologies even being divulged. You know what I mean? I don't believe anybody foresaw the movie industry taking hold of Marvel uh, uh, IPs and turning it into the basic biggest cash grab in the history of
Hollywood.
IPs. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Yeah, Hollywood. I just don't see 30 years ago that being of the concern. I really do believe just within that site of late 60s, early 70s, um, there's a lot of autonomy. So if you could hold some of those rights for reprinting of your stories, you could, reprint, start up a small company, start reprinting Kamandi issues because you got dropped by DC and DC lapsed on the copyright, blah, 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 blah. I think that was a circular in holding rights, and negotiating and
No,
renegotiating,
we are
and the
no,
and the
we are
sheer
going to
volume of
yeah,
circulation.
we are going to see how that plays in all along the way. You know,
Yep,
I'm reading these books. I'm reading
yep,
Marvel Comics by Sean Howe. I have The Secret History of Marvel Comics. I'm reading them slowly but slowly but surely.
yeah,
And when you get out of this, you're still in the 70s when Incredible Hulk is on TV, and Stan
hmm,
Lee says, "Hey, I just got a rumor that CBS was going to do She-Hulk. Let's put
yeah,
out a
yeah,
comic of She-Hulk #1 before they do it." And he did just that. It was all about
yep,
securing the characters. Same thing,
yep,
Captain Marvel was a mess with how many Captain Marvels there were.
yep.
And the same thing goes for Spider Woman, Spider Girl, all these characters. It's all about beating the other guy out, beating them to the punch.
But also capturing the attention too, because if you're, once again, if you're waiting a month and a book comes out and it says Spider Girl on it, and you're a Spider Woman fan, why not pick up an issue? Because they're just trying to capture sales off the newsstands.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's just an eyeball and about, I mean, we're just so inundated with content, to the point where it's even less about really taking the time to search out or take a chance on something. You know what I mean? Like going back to Kamandi and the first 8 issues or so, being, starting out strong, but kind of pittering out because Kirby probably thought he was going to lose, uh, uh, the publishing, or I mean, excuse me, they would, DC would not continue after like the 8th issue because numbers would have come in from all the sales at that point to give the corporate a heads up on the direction of it. And then he obviously gets that, I guess at 9 or so, right? And then he just comes back with the tracking site issue, and he's just dumping everything in there because he wants to revitalize and recapture everybody's attention and everything. I think the biggest thing um, is Kirby was just as responsible for the salesmanship of these stories than Marvel as a corporation. And I think he felt that way. I really do. I think he was way over the top in his professionalism in delivering a product. And maybe it even by the time he became passe, people were like, this Kirby thing is, let's get some more Neil Adams and,
Yeah,
you know, Joe Kuber feel in the reality of stuff. This cartoony weirdo shit, has got to kind of go to the wayside. That
yeah.
I still think he held to that. I think he was a force to be reckoned with, and I don't think anybody's ever going to be uh, uh, anywhere outside of his shadow. All of us live within the shadow of making
Well,
a
to
comic book.
me, right, to
Um,
me, I appreciate his art and his fast style. It is definitely something to look at in the context of pop art that was happening. You talked about these influences on Basquiat in our episode that we just taped, and Gustin Twombly, which is going to be the name of a character at some point.
are you?
Uh,
That's great. That's
but
great.
there was these art movements happening, and we know that Andy Warhol was huge with the soup cans, but Roy Lichtenstein was also scoring huge hits in the art world, in the greater art world, the museum world, with just like isolating comic book panels and taking them out of context and blowing them up and and he used Kirby's art in there, and and then when you look at it, but that's every single panel of every single page of Kirby's stuff.
Yeah.
You realize that you could take any one of these panels and just blow it up, and it's a time capsule of that period. The lines are bold, it's quick, semi-disposable, storytelling. It isn't like, like a fine art painting, for the ages, so there's that kind of spontaneity of it. Um, but what Kirby did is it's the totality, right? He had the era where he was inventing the most popular superheroes of all time and sci-fi titles of all time. And then there's the period where he was, just, on his own, creating his, stuff just to pay the bills. And then there's the stuff where he was creating these worlds where he started thinking a little more cosmically, and he started doing the New Gods and the Eternals and, all those kind of series, where you see, a guy in his twilight, that's trying to put down like all these high conceptual ideas that have already come out to be multi-million dollar blockbuster cinematic Hollywood releases,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
or
I think the key to Kirby, and it's what number one uh, um, for me and fall is the power of his imagination. It I, it's hard for me to grab somebody else and compare them to Kirby and hit the power of his imagination. I get all of this, oh, he was responsible for a multi-million to billion-dollar empire. I get that. I'm not disputing it, but I'm still putting it in the context because, even going back to Warhol and Liechtenstein, that's pop art, which was on the cuspis of becoming an art movement, which, by the way, we really don't have anymore. We don't have movements anymore. Everything is now stationary, and it's for free for all form ishness, if that makes sense. In playing with other people's
yeah.
toys. And when you really take comic books at its face value, everybody eventually comes to Kirby to play with his toys.
Right. Yeah, well, there's not too many that can do a good Kirby. We talk about Bruce Timm before. Bruce Timm.
Now, I'm not talking about the style, though. I'm talking about how he draws you
Oh,
in, keeps you there. There's very few comics out there that do it. There's very few, even from the past. There are always these feelings of one-offs. Like this, will this work? Does this work? Oh, I just got to pay the bills. Here's
yeah.
another one where he was thinking, I think, in a, a, a world, a literal world building Kirby universe, well, man, I can't even say non, predictable, but it's just,
Yeah, well, he definitely had a flair for he had all the formulas down by the time Fantastic Four comes out and the Marvel age begins. The series of hits, Hulk and Thor and X-Men and the Avengers, and just like on and on and on. Um,
well, that guaranteed him for the most part work
right,
because he sold them something that was successful, and it took eight
right, and
issues.
so
I'm sure there was
and
other things that just never
right
made it. I
because
mean, he's got a
because
laundry
as
list
the
of
book
that.
says, he was a Depression era kid, right?
Yeah,
That's when
yeah,
he was working. That's when he was developing everything, and so they say he never wasted any artwork. He would always repurpose it for later. He would turn it
yeah.
into something else. He would reprint it. It would always eventually come out. So sometimes he would do stuff on spec, and it wasn't like you weren't going to make money off it. You were eventually going to use it all. Just a question of what publisher do you sell it to, at what page rate, and do you have to make any changes, because we're doing this for like a different audience now or whatever. But Um, he was very frugal, but he was also very fast, and even within, the context of, different Marvel artists and, whether they were good, like Neil Adams is 10 times better than him on, reality and anatomy and foreshortening and, all that. But how long does it take, Neil Adams to do a page? Kirby does,
Yeah, but I also, once again, I don't have one Neil Adams story arc that I would go back to, like Kamandi and Jack
well,
Kirby.
I do.
There's nothing
I do.
rememberably other than Miss Mystique would be the only thing, or Miss Mystic, excuse me,
No,
Miss
well,
Mystic. He did what
you
the
have a couple.
continuity, but I still just,
One of the most famous,
I'm sorry, but
and talked about story arcs is Neil Adams penciling Denny O'Neil's script for Green Arrow, Green Lantern when
nah, it's not me though.
when
It's
they
no,
when
no,
the little teenage
yeah,
sidekick becomes a junkie and
sure,
they
sure.
took off the comic code stamp, and then that became a big thing because it was like, oh, that issue was collectible, but it also happened to have Neil Adams art. It probably wasn't the Neil Adams.
It was
Yeah, well,
realism.
it probably wasn't.
It
It
was
wasn't
realism.
the Neil Adams art though. It was just the like how gritty they got, with the storyline.
Yeah,
So that's one.
for that
The
time, yeah.
other one is when Neil Adams took over the floundering X-Men series when they were in issue, I want to say like in the 50s, right? Sales were low, they were bi-monthly, they didn't have good art, so they put this new guy, Neil Adams, on, and they introduced a couple of new characters, including Havoc and Polaris. And some interesting things happened with those characters. So I would say that
Right,
I say
right.
that was a pretty good era for Neil Adams.
I think it's gonna what we have going here, Jake, is something that's really exciting, and we want people to stay with us. But I'm not putting you on the spotlight yet, though I keep bringing it up. But these books that you're devouring, definitely about the industry, Marvel, Stanley, Martin Goodman, Jack Kirby, and stuff. These are going to be future breakout videos. So, I don't want to take up too much time because we're almost hitting an hour
Uh-huh.
here.
Yeah,
But yeah, no,
pe-
this is a major part of making a comic is knowing your history and getting back into it and utilizing it for your own
pe-
benefit and your own story creation.
people need
So,
to know these things.
and we got to keep them alive. And we're doing it here at Turbo Pit Fighter,
Right.
the making of the comic, which, if you like what we're saying here, we have a post-apocalyptic romance comic
With plenty of action.
called Turbo Pit. It's a plenty of action, page turning, very inspired
No
by
ads.
Jack Kirby's work, Kamandi, Planet of the Apes.
Road Warrior,
So
the movie
please
Road Warrior.
jump over, jump over however you have to. I think there'll be some links here in the bottom to help you jump over to something else in there and find out. But yeah, we're here for the long haul in making
Yeah,
comics.
we're here for the long haul. These are just kind of like the off the cuff musings that we have, and we do like how many more commandees are we doing? We're doing up to 20, right?
Yeah, yeah. So this is 11. So we've got eight more. Is that
Okay,
eight?
yeah, we're
Nine
we're
more?
taking the first
Nine.
20 commandees in our breakout series, and then go back to our making of Turbo Pit Fighter comics if you want to see the comics that we're making, original comics we're making, and then can't wait to find out what our next breakout series is going to be. There's so many things, you know.
I got a couple
We do
ideas.
have a lot of show and tell that we do. When we pick up comics or we go through our collections, because there's a lot of great stuff that was lost on the highway, and we'd love for people to know about them, even if you're just seeing it here, or whether you run out and collect it yourself and mine the whole depths. There's just like too much great art that just never got its place in the spotlight.
Yes. So with that being said, we will see you next
See you
week.
guys soon.